Speaker Pelosi, what is Congress doing to ensure my generation will have breathable air, water we can drink, a climate that will not cause massive food shortages, and extreme temperatures that will relegate us to being cave dwellers? Should fossil fuel companies, utilities, and other polluters be civilly and criminally liable for the damage they are causing to our environment?
So I thank you very much for your question. I'm going to come over and answer it because I just came back, as I said, from Spain for the COP25, the climate crisis, to address the climate crisis. And this is really an existential threat to the planet. You can't exaggerate. When I came home that night, I had dinner with some scientists on another subject, on artificial intelligence. And they said, tell us about Spain. And I told them how close to the beach we are, and how the Secretary General of the United Nations defined the challenges, how the scientists defined the challenges. At the end of my conversation, my presentation, they said, it's worse than that. So this is, as I say, if you believe as do I, that this is God's creation, we have a moral responsibility to be good stewards of it. But even if you don't, you just believe that we owe it to our children, to the next generation, to pass on a better planet. But in the here and now, it is urgent. And we have passed, as I said, the climate action now, but we've had 100 hearings already on the climate crisis in the Congress. And it's a public health issue. Clean air, clean water, food safety. It's a jobs issue, again, clean jobs being preeminent in the world, and green technologies. It's a defense issue because what's happening with the planet, the erosion of habitat, the encroachment of deserts, the melting of glaciers, the drying up of rivers, all of this, the thermal management of the planet, this all has an impact on competition for resources, migration, all of it. So it is a national security issue, as our generals and other leaders in national security tell us. And of course, it is a moral issue to preserve the planet. But on every single day, whether it's honoring the Clean Air Act, whether it is issues that relate to food safety, methane, how we handle. Right now, we're having a fight in the defense bill for PFAS. This is how you hold corporations accountable for the toxics that they send forth in the air, and they just don't want to hold them liable. And it's a big fight that we are having. So there is a difference of opinion on this subject, and unfortunately we haven't found as much common ground as we would like. But you know, I have hope because of young people. Young people understand this issue. Next year, and we're hoping, we've sent so many environmental bills over to the Senate, so many healthcare bills over to the Senate, and the health and environmental issues are related. Next year, I host the G7 heads of parliament. The president heads the G7 heads of state. They'll go first, and then we'll have ours a couple weeks later. Ours will be in Washington, D.C. And we have, the theme of ours is the climate crisis, economic, environmental justice. Justice, whether it's indigenous people or people in underserved areas and the rest. I spoke in Spain at the Vulnerable Nations Conference. Some nations are much more vulnerable, island populations, and islands, some small, some big, some archipelagos, which have bigger places and smaller. You know, it just affects so many countries. But it's also the vulnerability of the indigenous people in these areas. So this is a global challenge that we have, and that's why we wore pins when we said we're still in. But Congress is acting very much, and I invite you to come to our hearings on the subject. While we're up, though, I see we have some veteran friends here, and if I could get back to one question, what is something that can unify us? Our support for our veterans is very unifying. It's nonpartisan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your service, and thanks for being here.
And we owe them so much. We can never repay the debt.
Indeed, we do.
But we have to be as unifying and nonpartisan as possible. We passed, we're just about, maybe tomorrow we'll finish with a bill for suicide prevention and mental health things. Earlier we passed the Dorothy Sampson legislation for women vets. So many things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to bring in Pavan Patel from Kenilworth, New Jersey. He's a registered Democrat. He's a senior at Johns Hopkins University studying public health. Pavan.
Hi, Speaker Pelosi. Your brother, Tommy D'Alessandro III, led Baltimore during the 1968 riots following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. How do President Trump's recent comments disparaging Baltimore as a rat-infested city make you feel? And what is your vision for improving the conditions of cities like Baltimore across the country?
No, thank you for your question and for remembering my brother Tommy. My brother Tommy was mayor of Baltimore when he was in his 30s. And his hallmark as mayor, his vision was to say, I want to rid our society of every vestige of discrimination. And that was his call to action. As far as the president is concerned, what I had said, this will sound flippant, but he should know about some of that because his son-in-law has been cited for many violations in Baltimore in the apartments that he rents out there. But our urban centers and our mayors are really giving us great hope as how we can work together. While the president is out of Paris Accord, our mayors and our many states and regional collaborations of multi-state collaborations are very important. And the mayors are very fit. My father was mayor, my brother was mayor, so I know how immediate the challenges are to mayors. And the mayors are really leading the way on so many issues in terms of ending disparity in income, protecting the environment. We have to, and being part of ending the climate crisis. I keep talking about that because it's an economic issue as well as a public health issue, as well as I said, defense and a moral issue for us. But I have confidence because the mayors have cities that by and large, even a city as large as Los Angeles, that is large enough to be significant, but small enough to be resilient, to try new things, to make things better for people. And some of the solutions that some people may have, we want to make sure. Like in my city of San Francisco, the rents are so horrible, and it could drive out the beautiful diversity that we have in our city, drive out families. So we have to make a decision about how we work together to keep the vitality of cities, not only to be prosperous and centers of economic opportunity, but also great places for families to live and children to flourish.